Come and take my hand, don't fear the reaper, don't come on stand, don't fear the reaper. Hello everyone, my name's Stonesy Boy and welcome back to Reading with Stonesy. Today, we are returning to an actual book. Minecraft Zombies Return. It has been over a year officially since I have last read this book. As a matter of fact, I can get you the exact date that I last read any of these books, which was December 12th of 2023 is when the third episode of this book came out, which is insane. That I haven't seen this screen since then. I mean, honestly, that's incredible. But that's besides the point. Today, we are reading pages 59 to 81, chapters 12 to 16, and I don't remember anything about the story, so I'm hopefully going to remember little by little as I read today. It's going to be a decently long reading, with the video being about 20 minutes. But yeah, without further ado, let's begin. Chapter 12. The flying blue mob found Bobby's hiding spot easily. It flew up right to her and cooed, handing Bobby an apple. Apparently it wanted to repay her. "Aw, thanks," she whispered. "But can you fly a little lower? You're going to give me away." Bobby was crouching behind a shrub, and she'd put down a few blocks of dirt for good measure. She was close to the pillager outpost, Logan's outpost now, and she dared to get. She hoped it was close enough to eavesdrop on Logan's scheming. Lucky for her, Logan spoke loudly and often. The boy seemed to love the sound of his own voice. "This is perfect," said Logan. "Did you go to the top? And you could see it for miles in every direction." "It made me real a little dizzy," said other Ben. "And small. The overworld is so big." Bobby nodded to herself. She had felt the same exact way her first time looking out of the mountaintop. "It makes me feel big," said Logan. "Like the master of all I can see. Like the king of the overworld," he laughed. "Anyway, you should get this place fortified. We'll be able to see trouble coming our way. It would be nice if we also, launch TNT at it. I could try to figure out how to do that. What if—" But Logan wasn't listening. "Hey, I thought there was an alley in this cage," he said, and Bobby risked a quick peek over the dirt blocks. Logan and the other Ben were standing in front of the cage, and Bobby had found her little blue friend. An alley. Was that what it was? "The cage must have been damaged in battle," said other Ben, and the alley flew off. Bobby saw the other Ben was looking in her direction. She ducked behind and pulled her alley lower, too. Maybe she wasn't as sneaky as she thought. "Oh well," said Logan. "There will be other allays. Once our army is fully equipped, though once my enemies are overrun, this whole area will be defenseless. We'll take whatever we want, and there won't be anything to stand in our way ever again." "We'll see about that, won't we, Lila?" whispered Bobby. The creature chirped in agreement. With Logan and other Ben taking the outpost as a new base, Bobby had the opportunity she'd been waiting for, time alone with the zombie horde. That wasn't something she'd wanted to wish for weeks ago. Her priorities had changed pretty quickly. But as she scanned the faces of the horde, she remembered all over again that these weren't just any zombies. Not all of them, at least. Mixed in the run-of-the-mill mindless mobs were familiar faces. She saw a town cleric and a farmer, the librarian and blacksmith she'd known since she was a baby. And somewhere in the crowd she knew were her parents. Bobby didn't know where she came from originally, as Ben liked to remind her she wasn't a typical villager. But she had been raised by villagers and happy childhood full of love and support. Bobby considered the couple who raised her to be her parents, plain and simple. She would do whatever it took to save them. But it was time to be the essence. Logan might return at any moment, and Bobby still didn't have a single dose of cure, a combination of a golden apple and a potion of weakness. Looking at the mass of undead mobs on the far side of the other Ben's fence, Bobby knew she'd had a lot more than a single dose. "We've got to get these zombies away from Logan," she said. And Elijah chirped and handed her an apple. Bobby fought the urge to roll her eyes. "Thanks, but honestly I don't need any more," and there she goes. Bobby sighed. Layla seemed to have a one-track mind, and in the absence of the Alay's growing aura, Bobby's surroundings felt extra creepy. The creature gave off a subtle blue light, which was not enough to see by Bobby related in the torches and Logan and other Ben had left behind for that. But any light in this subterranean darkness was welcome, and the blue hue cast by Layla felt especially comforting. As the nearest zombie strained against the fence enclosure, breaching for Bobby and gnashing their teeth, Bobby knew that there would be any comfort she would get. Okay, Bobby said aloud to herself. "So what am I going to do with you all?" The zombies made no reply except the rasping groan and slash of the air. "I could lead you off somewhere," said Bobby. "March you right back to where we came from. But without any turtle eggs, I can only be bait. That happens when I need to stop for food or rest. What happens if some of you in the back start wandering and because I'm too far ahead?" Bobby sighed. She saw now why keeping his horde on the march was a two-person job. Only if she hadn't sent Ben away. She racked her brain for a plan. If she couldn't lead the horde away from Logan, could she hide them somehow? What if she dug a pit right beneath their feet, and then covered it up again? Logan would come back and find the pen empty. If Bobby broke a piece of the fence away, he'd assume the zombies had all fled. He wandered the tunnels looking for them, not realizing they're safe and just beneath his feet. Bobby, meanwhile, would have all the time she needed to gather cures. And when she the only one she knew where to get a horde was hidden, as long as she didn't get lost. The plan could work. She felt it in her bones. It was a good plan. She turned to the zombies. You guys don't mind being buried in the dark for a little while, right? She asked. I bet you'll feel right at home. There's gonna be buried, said a voice, and Bobby whirled around. She could only see a short distance of the torchlit tunnel. Who's there? She asked. Two figures emerged from shadow. Don't tell me you forgot us, said Hatchet, hefting her axe. Because we sure didn't forget you, said Flip, aiming his crossbow. And neither did the boss, I bet. You caused Logan an awful lot of trouble back at Fort Rot, and he's gonna welcome us back with open arms when you tell him we got rid of you, said Hatchet. Permanently. Chapter 13. Ben was pleased with the boat he had crafted. It wasn't spacious by any means, but it was big enough for the both of them, and allowed him to keep an eye on Johnny while rowing. He always felt better having a zombie boy where he could see him, especially when Johnny was wearing his little helmet. I don't care what you say, said Ben. I think it's adorable. The sun was high overhead, and the ocean was all around them. There was no shelter to be seen, that was very much of the bit of shade. So when Ben had no choice but to drop the carved pumpkin over Johnny's head, Johnny grumbled, and the sound echoed a bit within the pumpkin. Adorable, repeated Ben, and he looked down at his map. They still had a long way to travel, but armed with the coordinates of the Overlord's HQ, they had this destination in mind, and having taken the direct route over the sea instead of under it, Ben hoped he could beat Logan and the Overlords. If he was really lucky, he could catch up to Bobby too. After all, he was dodging Logan's steps, and Ben now knew where those steps were headed. He didn't mention that part to Johnny, though. He didn't want to get the boys' hopes up. Bobby was smart and resourceful, and she probably hadn't fallen into the pit of lava or been blown to bits by a creeper, but who could say for sure? The overworld was a dangerous place, and Bobby, was smart as she was still a rookie, unlike Ben himself, who... Oh, dolphin! Meow, said Johnny. A dolphin! See, it's following us, and there's one dolphin. Then spun around and leaned over the back of the boat. There were 4 dolphins in all, and they were trailing behind the boat, occasionally leaping over the water. Boat rocked as Ben vibrated in excitement. Johnny, isn't this cool? Look, they're following us. Johnny growled and swiped the air if you want to swipe the dolphins away. No, they're friendly. They're so friendly, in fact, that they've been known to lead adventures to treasure. Ben eyed Johnny. The zombie boy had been very well behaved on the boat. The pumpkin prevented him from getting biting anything, and it seemed to weigh him down a little too. Maybe it would be all right to leave it unattended for a little while. You don't mind, do you? Ben asked, and as he pulled a special helmet from his inventory, it was a turtle shell, which he made from scoot left behind Fort Rot. It would allow him to stay underwater longer. He smiled, pleased at his foresight in crafting at the same time as the boat. He placed the turtle shell atop his head. See? Now we both have cool helmets, and I'm going to go for a little swim. I'll be right back. Ben hopped out of the boat in the water, treading the surface. He glanced back up at Johnny. Stay put, he said. Be a good baby, and maybe I'll bring you back a treat. The pumpkin tilted forward, giving Ben an impression Johnny was nodding. Or maybe the pumpkin was just heavy and it slipped. Either way, he was swimming with dolphins. How great was that? Ben ducked his head under the water and was like blue curtain lifting the reveal of the scene of pure fantasy. 4 dolphins swam in the playful loops against the backdrop of swaying seaweed and the colorful coral. Ben laughed, and bubbles erupted from his open mouth, flowing swiftly on the surface. 1 dolphin swam up close. Ben reached out to pet it, but the mob ducked away when the hand swam circles around him. It began to swim off, but stopped and turned to look at him, as if it was inviting him to follow. Wait for 1 second, Ben thought the dolphin, and he kicked to the surface to take a breath. Johnny was there, sitting in the boat, just where Ben had left him. Good baby, said Ben. Don't go anywhere. And Ben delved once again beneath the waves, determined to follow the dolphin wherever it led him. Chapter 14. Bobby was staring down the shaft of Flip's crossbow when she realized she could do something drastic. In the past, it had been Ben's job, but Ben wasn't here, and Johnny wouldn't be leaping out to save her this time, either. It was up to Bobby. The truth was, she did have a plan, but it was a terrible, rotten, no-good sort of plan. She needed a better idea. So, what have you guys been up to? She said, cleverly stalling for time. She's stalling for time, said Hatchet. Probably thinks she's clever. You want me to put some arrows in her, said Flip. Make sure she won't be any trouble. I figured we'd take her prisoner, Hatchet smiled. But there's no reason we couldn't put some holes in her first. That decided, Bobby couldn't afford to stall any longer, and hope a better plan would occur to her. It was time to act on the plan she already had. As Flip chuckled at Hatchet's dark humor, his eyes flicked briefly from Bobby to Hatchet and as Bobby's movement. And she darted out of the crossbow's line of fire, pulled a diamond pickaxe from her inventory, and attacked. She didn't attack Flip or Hatchet, though. She attacked the fence. It shattered immediately beneath the force of her blow, and the zombie surged forward without a moment's hesitation. It was the part of the plan that Bobby hated the most. She looked back and see how the others would react to the undead breakout. Flip aimed his crossbow to the nearest zombie, and Bobby gasped. Zombies! Cried Flip. They got loose! Before Flip could fire an arrow, Hatchet knocked the crossbow aside. Those are Logan zombies, idiot. We have to plug the hole and recapture the ones that got loose. Right, said Flip. He slashed his crossbow so that he could root through the inventory for an appropriate item. Bobby couldn't wait around for watch the rest. Her distraction had worked perfectly. Hatchet and Flip didn't dare let any harm come to Logan's undead soldiers, they likewise wouldn't allow him to escape. Bobby then therefore bought herself a precious seconds with which to secure her own escape, and she didn't intend to waste them. "I'll be back," she whispered towards the zombies, still assembled to the far side of the fence. "I promise." And then she slipped away into the shadows. As soon as Bobby was out of sight of the Hatchet and Flip, she dug with her diamond pickaxe, carving the side path of the main tunnel. Look of effort. She dug forward for a while and then made a hard right turn, and then zigging and zagging. As soon was dark and she couldn't see her hand in front of her face, she went to place a torch and realized her error. She could dig in random directions all she wanted, unless she had time to dig false paths and dead ends. Then her little escape tunnel would lead her pursuers right to her. So she dug up. Gaining the surface, Bobby ran in the random direction without a tunnel to follow. Hatchet and Flip were unlikely to find her again. Even if they split up, the odds are still in Bobby's favor. She ran for a long time before she felt safe enough to rest, and she leaned against a tree. There was sprucery of the tag about him, not of the jungle tree she expected. Bobby scanned the horizon for Logan's outpost tower. The sun was dropping low in the sky, which told her the way was west. But she didn't want to go west or the other direction. If she could locate the outpost, she could tell her bearings. But it was nowhere to be seen. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting Bobby's world in deep shadow. In the dusk, realization dawned on Bobby. She was lost, entirely, undeniably, seriously lost. In the end, freezing and indecision worked in her favor as the night's darkness settled over the landscape and aurora light bloomed the horizon. At first, she thought it was the moon, but then the moon rose and the glow persisted. She realized the light came from an artificial source. It had to be a village. Bobby could be safe there, at least for the night. She would rest and resupply and come up with a new plan. She pushed off the tree, running in the direction of the distant glow. But the night's mobs weren't going to make it easy for her. An arrow flew past her, and her first thought was to Flip and had found her. But when she turned, she saw something far stranger, a skeletal warrior sitting atop a spider. Bobby quickly hid behind a tree, and the skeleton's next arrow lodged in its trunk. The sight was a reminder of Bobby that she had a shield in her inventory, and she completely forgotten when she had faced the pillager. As the spider rider scrambled around in a clear shot, Bobby quickly searched her inventory. She hoisted a shield up just in time. The skeleton's third arrow found her shield instead of her face. Despite the fearsomeness of her enemy, she was determined not to panic. Simple act of holding a shield was a comfort, but she knew she couldn't hide behind it forever. Sooner or later, she would have to go on the offense. Remembering what Ben had taught her, she decided moving closer to the enemy when it was against every instinct that she had. But she didn't have enough arrows in the fight at the distance. She counted quietly to herself on 3. She had pushed away from the trunk, pushing towards her foe, and she had closed the distance quickly, catching the next arrow with her shield as she got into striking range. The spider would be weaker to the skeleton, she guessed, and would be much easier to reach. She attacked it first, unleashing a flurry of hurried slashes. She laughed in triumph as it burst into dust. The skeleton trembled to the ground and recovered quickly. It fired an arrow at her at point-blank range where there was no way to dodge in time, but her shield held, and she pushed forward an unrelenting series of blows. She picked up the bow and followed her adversary left behind. "I'll save this up for Johnny," she said, and lay cooed, reappearing at the side and handing her another apple. Thanks," she said. "I guess I could eat." Layla seemed to be pleased with that and darted off, probably to find more apples. Bobby guessed. It would save her from having to scrounge for food, at least, and allowed her to focus on the task at hand. The zombie approached her from behind the trees, and beyond it, she could hear the spider hissing venomously. If she wanted to reach the village, she was going to have to fight the whole way. Chapter 15. Ben had never known he could swim so fast, but he had a pod of dolphins darted through the water. He kept up, pausing only to take the occasional breath on the surface. When the dolphins dove deep, whistling and chirping, they plunged fiercely into the vast trench of the seafloor. Ben hesitated briefly, patted his turtle shell for luck, and followed behind. Ben passed through the trench deeper than he'd ever gone before. A curtain of seaweed parted, and he saw a tight threatening to take the last of his breath away. It was a ship, a vast one, easily 10 times the size of the boat he'd crafted. But while Ben's boat floated somewhere above them, the ship would sail no more. Its hull was broken, coral grew and burst color up and down its dark wood deck. And though its mast still stood, even the tattered remains of the sails remained. Ben wondered what the great battles of the ship might have witnessed, and he wondered what great riches might have gone down with the ship. There was a treasure chest in the deck of the ship, visible through the mass of coral. Ben swam forward, aligning on the deck and squeezing through the sharp coral. The light was dim, and sunlight filtering down from the high above and tiny tube-like sea pickles providing low light on the seafloor. Ben decided to grab what he could in the chest and leave immediately. The chest opened with a creak and explosion of bubbles. Ben waved the bubbles aside impatiently, eager to see its contents, but the chest only filled a few common items, a compass, a clutch of feathers, and a map. Ben grabbed the map for a closer look. A big X upon it left no doubt this was a treasure map. He smiled, a real treasure hunt now. He was up for the challenge. It was images of emeralds and gold nuggets danced in his mind's eye. He was very missed the fact that he was not alone. A figure was approaching him through the coral, almost visible in the dim light. Ben's first instinct was to greet the figure, but he couldn't speak underwater. He lifted a hand in welcome. Had his treasure map already been claimed? But it was another adventure approaching Ben. It was a monster, with molted green-gray skin and hair that appeared to be green with algae. It wore tattered brown clothes and took a look of soulless hunger on its face. It was a drowned, an aquatic breed of zombie. It seemed to have been down here for depths of some time. No wonder it looked hungry. Ben tried to flee, but there was only coral on its back, pinning him in. He didn't have time to go around it, so he punched the coral until it broke, clearing a path through he could retreat. The drowned wouldn't give him the opportunity. It hefted a trident in his left hand, pulled back its arm, and threw. The trident sliced into Ben. If not for his armor, he might have been pierced right through the middle. All the same, that had hurt. And the drowned wasn't done yet. It was already rearing back for another throw. Ben prepared to duck, but at this range he feared it wouldn't do much to protect him. He suddenly remembered that he was in water, and he could go up as well as down. Ben kicked off the submerged deck and taking the open water. Second try to miss him, sailing below his feet, but Ben's dismay had struck an unsuspecting dolphin. No, Ben thought, rarely remembering to keep his mouth firmly shut. The dolphins appeared less considering staying silent. Every member of the pod chirped in anger as they turned their eyes to the drowned. They darted toward as one, attacking their pointed snouts as the zombie stabbed back with another trident. Ben wanted to cheer them on and wanted to help, but his air was almost up, and he needed to head to the surface now. Good luck, fellas, he thought to the pod when he kicked it and stroked, launching himself up like a firework. He broke the surface and saw his boat in the middle distance. He was easy to spot on the flat, featureless surface of the water. Swimming over to it, he prepared to hop on board, but he was greeted by a trident pointed right at his face. Johnny, what's the deal? He cried, wondering if all zombies suddenly held an endless supply of tridents. But he looked at the length of the trident, saw it held, and realized, You're not Johnny. What are you doing on my boat? Bad news for you, lad, said a trident wielder. Ben saw now he wore a black hat bearing a white skull and an unmistakable symbol of a pirate. It's my boat now. Chapter 16. Bobby had traveled through the night, fighting more than a few mobs along the way. The entire time she had been following the light on the horizon, expecting it could lead her to a village. She was right, mostly, but a village she found was an unusual one. Rather than being wide open and welcoming, this village was shielded against intruders. A great stone wall rose up like a fortification of some storybook castle. Lining the wall was a colorful multitude of banners, each with an unfamiliar sigil, and every 3 dozen blocks or so, a wall bulged out up to form a lookout tower made from some light gray stone. Just beyond the wall, she could see a multitude of peaked roofs. So people did live here, on the other side of the wall. They'd simply taken the defense of their own town very seriously. Bobby held her hopes up in the rising sun. She had been alone in the dark for so long. She was ready for some company, and some help. She reached for the gate, and before she could push it open, a voice cried out, Halt, traveler, and pause. I would know your visit's cause. Oh, Bobby startled. She looked at the soft figure dazed out for the bottom above. Hi, I'm Bobby. I'm not from around here. I'm looking for supplies, maybe some direction. Aha, said the figure. I'm an adventurer. If an adventurer you be, then you may enter, for a fee. I'm not an adventurer, said Bobby. I'm a traveler who's trying to stop a bad guy from overcoming a series of challenges along the way. Bobby heard what she was saying, and she stopped her. Oh no, she said. I am an adventurer, aren't I? Growing up in the village, Bobby had never learned to dislike adventures. They would breeze through her hometown, take whatever they wanted, and often leave a mess in their wake. Bobby had never intended to become one herself, but what choice did she have? She was a villager without a village. Okay, fine, I'm an adventurer, said Bobby, but I'm a polite one, and I'm looking for a safe place to rest. There are 2 other adventurers trying to find me. They're more like mercenaries, really. They and their big boss are in big trouble. Figure laugh. Trouble come as trouble quelled. The overlords shall ne'er be felled. The overlords, Bobby echoed. Overworld overlords is the name of our band. We're the foremost heroes in all the land. Oh, you're rhyming, said Bobby. That's nice, but it's not really necessary. My name is Cairo, the hero's bard. I like to rhyme. It isn't hard. Great, awesome, said Bobby, and she looked at her shoulder, expecting Flip to fire an arrow in the back at any moment. Although this could all have been a tremendous stroke of luck, if these overlords were impressed as Cairo said, then even 1 or 2 of them might help turn the tide of battle with Logan. Maybe she would hire them. If she learned anything from Ben, his self-proclaimed heroes loved loot. Bobby had a quick mental inventory of her gear. She didn't have much of value. She'd strange totem she had taken from an evoker when she and Ben had defeated the Woodland Mansion, but she doubted it was worth much. Even her precious diamond pickaxe was showing some serious signs of wear. Other than that, she had apples. A lot of apples. Okay, then. She had to rely on her own sense of honor. I have a proposition for the overlords. Who is in charge around here? She asked, reaching for the gate. Hold, cried the bard. Not so bold. Bobby's skin prickled, and she somehow knew she'd find when she looked up. She lifted her head slowly. The bard was not alone upon the battlement. Several other heroes had appeared, bowstrings drawn with arrows, aimed right for Bobby. Okay, said Bobby. She raised her hand and took a step backward. We have rules. We have tests, said the bard. If you would enter, survive a quest. What kind of quest? Far below in the deep dark, a city awaits. Here's the remark. Within his chest, the echo shard. We like a few, if that's not too hard. Bobby sighed in frustration. Okay, so you let me see if I understand this, she said, rubbing her temple. Before you let me come in, I need to dig down to some abandoned city and bring back some loot from it. Then you will let me into your clubhouse, right? And let me be an audience with whoever wants the decisions around here. Indeed it's so, and if successful, you'll have more than proved your mettle. Bobby rolled her eyes. Fine. Hold that thought. I'll be right back with more echo shards than you know what to do with. The bard cleared his throat. Yet hark. A warning is only fair. When you go below of the warden, beware. Bobby didn't know what that meant exactly, but it didn't sound good. Thanks for the tip, she said, failing to keep the sarcasm out of her voice. Now off I go. Hooray, pip pip. What was that all about? Asked the voice. Gyro climbed down the battlements. An aspiring hero, a would-be friend. You needn't worry about them, Ben. I'm glad that you have high standards. You can't let just anybody with a hero, right? Ben grinned with satisfaction. Now, can I get some more of that cooked chicken? I can't be expected to join the overlords on an empty stomach. Oh my goodness. Ben. Which Ben? I don't know. I can't tell anymore. But what I can tell you is that's the end of today's reading suggestion, or reading section. But yeah, today we read pages 59 to 81, or chapters 12 to 16. We are back in the reading business, baby. And as such, we have earned ourselves a little check mark on my nice little list. Next time we read, we'll be reading chapter... Hold on. Don't make me look stupid. Don't make me look stupid. Hold on. Chapters 17 to 18 and pages 82 to pages 80... 82 to 1 to 82 to 10. Oh, that can't be right. This is going to be our first of 2 times. We're going to move that, as reading tradition goes. Now, does that mean we should move this? I believe so. Now, I hope you guys have a super fantastic, wonderful day. Be polite, be efficient, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope to see you guys next time.